Well, good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. How are you all today? Small towns in America are under attack. I don't know if it's going on the same around the world. Let me know if you're in one of the other countries, but I know that in America, the small towns are under attack. You know, it's easy to look at the news and the riots of the Summer of Love several years ago and think that all the problems are in the cities, and they're not. And I think a lot of people are misled about that, and because they're misled, they have a tendency not to address the problems when they're small enough, perhaps, to be solved. I was, by the way, before I get to this, and I'm going to talk about exactly this, I have some experience in this. But before we get to that, by the way, we just had a slew on yesterday's video on this could be bringing civil war, and it could. A lot of people have a misunderstanding about civil war, about what a civil war was, and I'll be honest, I had a lot of ignorant comments, and I take those off. If you're new to us, welcome. It's great to have you here. But I want to say that this is a channel not for a bunch of hate-filled rhetoric or a bunch of ignorant comments or a bunch of arguing or a bunch of any of that stuff. It's a channel for intelligent conversation. We have very intelligent people on this channel, and even more so over on the Patreon channel. We had great discussions over on the Patreon channel, sadly, and we had some excellent comments on the YouTube channel as well, but sadly we just had a lot of ignorant comments, like always happens when, whenever I put up a video that is one of those civil war, this, whatever like this, it brings in the people who don't usually watch us, and they don't realize that we're a group of nice people here. So if you have joined us, if you're new, welcome. It's great to have you. Participate in the conversation. But be nice. Don't be argumentative. Don't take pot shots at people. Don't be an asshat, and you'll be fine. If you fall into if someone, I won't say you, if someone falls into any of those other categories, I get rid of them because they're just not worth our time, and I don't let trash stay around. Now, to that, I have to say this. I had so many comments on that, and I've always loved getting back and having my relationship with my viewers, just like I do my readers of my books. I've always tried to get back and respond to comments and things like that. I'm getting overloaded, and so I just can't do it as much anymore as I used to, especially on those videos that have a whole lot of comments. I'll try to give them a heart to let you know that I read it, but I may not be able to answer all those. Now, I do answer all over on Patreon, and really that's where our I'll keep doing YouTube, but that's really where our energies are going to be more and more directed to Patreon, because that community is just getting to be such a great community. Exceptional people. If you're an exceptional person and you're not with us yet on Patreon, you should be, and I'll put the link down below. Come on over. It's only $1 a month, and you're going to be glad you did. You're going to find people over there that are really the cream of the crop. Whether you just read the comments or make sure, I always say, make sure that you regularly check the member posts. You are going to find such a wealth of information there. Preparedness, survival, social, all those kinds of things. It'd be worth far more than the $1 that you'd pay. And if you'd like to come to the Stone Mountain level, that's the next level. I just put up, I think we're up to part 13 of the Audible readings, me reading the first book of the Stone Mountain series, The Reversion. That's how we're doing the Audibles. Everybody said, well, why don't you read it? That's a great idea. I'm going to read it myself, so you get it read by the author. And I put it up in segments, usually in chapters. Sometimes it takes more than one segment to do a chapter, but in segments on the Patreon channel on the Stonemont level. And the people are liking it, and I'm liking it. I'm really enjoying doing it. I'll tell you what, it's been, I wrote that first book in 2015, and I've forgotten some of the stuff that I wrote. I mean, not the principles, but I'm enjoying going back through it myself. So that's what we're doing over there. And we're going to go through the whole series, and I'll show you that series a little bit later, but I want to get to the subject here. So anyway, welcome if you're new. Be nice. If somebody's not nice, they're gone. Simple as that. I don't have time for idiots. Small towns. Small towns are being targeted. It is not the day of Andy Griffith anymore. I don't know if it ever was. I didn't live in a small town as a kid, so a lot of us have this idea. Those of you who did can tell us, share with us. Was it like Andy Griffith? But I do know that, growing up in the suburbs, my life was very much like Leave It to Beaver. So I have to assume, it was an ideal life. We all had mothers and fathers, and we all were raised right, and we were all raised to be polite and work hard. And there was a lesson in every 30-minute segment, just like there was a lesson in everything that we did. My kids will tell you, Dad thinks that everything is a life lesson. Well, it is, especially when you're raising kids. So maybe it was, idyllic back, 50, 60 years ago, I don't know. But I do know that the American small towns have been under attack for a long time. It's been 45 years since I was a marshal in a small town. And since I was a deputy sheriff in although I usually worked major inner city districts in a major city, I did do a lot of work in small towns, and I saw even at that time that drugs were coming in, more drugs than the people knew, more than they wanted to admit, and more than they were ready to respond to. They were still in that cocoon of it's the city stuff isn't going to touch us. Well, the city stuff was already touching them 45 years ago, and they just didn't realize it. Back then, in those days, the drug of choice among small town kids was, of course, booze. And everybody just kind of, they didn't pay much attention to it because the kids would. I mean, there's country songs about this, right? Go out there and when the sun goes down. I can't think of any particular song. I like a lot of them. When the sun goes down, and we all head out the dirt road and in our pickup trucks and go into the field and swim in the creek and drink beer and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean that was just what you did. City kids did pretty much the same thing without the dirt roads and creeks. But the problem, even back then, it was getting worse. What made me want to think about this is I was going through my news articles today, and I came upon this article I want to read to you in just a second, or read parts of it. The small towns now, people ask me why I won't move to a small town. I love the small town atmosphere. But what I want to say here, first off, as a warning to anybody who does live in a small town and doesn't know about this, and anybody who's considering moving to a small town and doesn't know about this, your small towns are under attack. They are in the crosshairs of everything that's going on in society. They are full of drugs. They're full of meth. Guess what? Do you know something you want to know? We don't have that problem here. And it doesn't mean that I'm saying that where I live is better than where you live. That's not what I mean. And you can say, oh, you don't know. Yes, I do know. Okay, I do know. Because that's been my life. It's been my experience. Okay. But the small towns are full of meth. They are, the crime is coming out to small towns. The thug, the hip hop culture. I know we still got good American kids out there. We still got good, future farmers, I guess. Is that organization still going on? 4-H. We still got good kids, taking their hogs to to the county fair and all that. But we've also got, and you've seen it in small towns, we've also got that thug culture and that hip-hop stuff coming to small towns. And that has been a cancer that's been growing and growing and growing. And it's by design. It's not by accident. Jason Aldean, in his song "Try That in a Small Town," I got news for Jason. I mean, it's a good song. I know a lot of people liked it. Well, Jason, they've been trying that in a small town for many, many years, and they've been winning, to be honest. Small towns have smaller police departments. Many of them are covered by sheriff's departments, who themselves are small. Law enforcement is not active in a lot of those small towns. A lot of the law enforcement already has their hands full with the local dirt bags, because every small town has them. It's not like everybody who lives in a small town is pure. But they've got their hands full. And when outside influence comes in, from a nearby city, or as the result of something that I'm going to read to you in a second, they're not ready for it. They are not ready for it. And things are happening that many of the good people in the town just don't even realize. It's I know it's popular to say. It's very popular to say, well, we won't stand for that. We'd stand up and do it. Well, I've got a lot of experience in small towns, in law enforcement and others. I don't see people standing up against that stuff when it comes in. They don't. I want to read you something here that came out. I think this was in the Epic Times, and when I put this video over on Patreon, I will I'll put this link down below so you all can see it and read it. It's from the Epic Times. It says, activists spread radical gender ideology to small-town America. Okay, this is by design. They're coming after your kids. And I'll tell you something interesting. Now, we live in a suburban area. We are part of what is arguably the top school district in the country. And my oldest son goes to what is arguably the top school in that district. And there is such a pushback against all this kind of stuff in this school that most people who maybe don't live in this area think that these schools are full of a whole bunch of horrible stuff. They were for a while. It was growing, but it's been pushed back, and it's headed to the small towns now. I want to read this. It says, powerful groups have been working to have drag queens dance for children in every town in America. You remember I said sometime back, and some people took issue with it because they didn't know any better, that the cartels had a presence in every town in the United States. And some people, I don't see any cartel around here. If you have drugs in your town, if you have meth, if you have fentanyl, which you do, the cartel has influence in your town. They may not be there themselves. They are supplying the person who's bringing those drugs into your town, into your kids. Okay, here, let me read a little bit of this. It says, left-wing organizations are recruiting radical groups to pressure small towns into accepting their pushing of transgender ideology onto children, according to locals. In Fillmore, California, a local activist group put on a drag show. Some people will say, well, that's California. Hey, small town, rural California is much like America, right? Okay, so it's not just because it's California. We've had it happen in the Midwest. You have it happen down south. We have it happen out west, up in the Northeast. It's happening everywhere. So this idea that it's not happening, where you live is mistaken. So let me start again. In Fillmore, California, a local activist group put on a drag show in front of children, drawing backlash from parents. Good. Fillmore has only 16,657 residents, hardly a big town, right? We're a small, small town, local mother Christina Marodi said. Everyone knows everyone. Everybody helps everyone out, okay? That's what we like to think about in a small town, right? Andy Griffith. But like many towns across the country, Fillmore faces a wave of radical activism that harnesses government organizations. That's where it's coming in, not just through the government organizations. I'll get to that in a minute. It harnesses government organizations to marshal young gender activists, according to experts. They're building the Red Guard in America, Moms for Liberty co-founder Tiffany Justice told the Epic Times. And then they go on to say, for those who don't know what the Red Guard is, the Red Guard was a student-led Chinese communist revolutionary organization that helped communist dictator Mao Zedong maintain power, destroyed symbols of China's pre-communist past, and publicly shamed, beat, and even killed people they deemed to be counter-revolutionary. According to Mrs. Marodi, a drag event shocked local parents, and 16 of them attended a July 11 city council meeting to complain. The group told the city they were upset because 2 city council members attended and supported the drag event. 2 city council members of a small town council. Okay, these weren't people that came in from the big city. Okay, that agenda isn't consistent with a small town values. It shouldn't be consistent with American values. There really shouldn't be this division between big city and small town. It used to be American values. You couldn't, 50 years ago, you couldn't find anybody in a major city that thought this kind of crap was okay. It just didn't happen. People who were afraid of big cities. They always thought that, but it wasn't like that. That agenda isn't consistent with small town values, and many people here want to protect childhood innocence, rightfully so. The drag show didn't appear out of nowhere, she said. A local activist group, One Step a la Vez, I guess I'm pronouncing that properly, or OSALV, O-S-A-L-V, invited the drag queen to dance for teens while wearing a pink leotard and thigh-high boots. According to the group's website, its name was chosen by the youth to remind them to take one step at a time towards self and community improvement. It was started as an after-school program for troubled youth, so they were pulling kids off the street and helping them out, Ms. Marodi said. Since then, it has turned into an indoctrination camp. Right. OSALV, I'll say one more thing here, and then I'll post this up for you all to read everything. OSALV, a nonprofit dedicated to providing a safe place for teens to get services, right, or help with whatever problems they might be facing, right, was founded in 2008 by Lyd Edmonds. Okay, I'll put that up there. This is simply a continuation of the attack on America, on American children, on American families through the children. It's easy to start through troubled kids. They know what they're doing. These people, they're a bunch of commies. They know exactly what they're doing. And sadly, the people on the other side don't know what they're doing. The parents, the small town parents, just like the city parents at one time, they didn't realize this stuff was coming up. They didn't know this was going on in their schools. I mean, these people found out, and good, they're standing up. But wasn't it interesting that it was 2 city council members of this small town who was at this event and thought it was just great. Now, this group of mothers is standing up. That's exactly what they should do. Hopefully, they've done it in time. Hopefully, they will get community support. But I've seen this before. And even though we've seen a lot of things over the last couple of years to where parents have stood up in school board meetings and city council meetings for which they were targeted by our government, it often doesn't happen. It just often doesn't happen. And I want to warn you all, those of you who did, you know why I want the small towns to be good? Well, first off, I mean, there's great people. Most of my family were from small towns. I love small towns. I hate what's happening to small towns. I wished I could go to a small town and find in it what, I find on Andy Griffith. But they've been dying. Alan Jackson's old song, right? They've been dying. You know what happens when kids go to college? I mean, they get through high school and they've already been exposed to a lot of this stuff. They go to college. You know what happens to them in college, right? Even if they don't turn full lefty, how many of them come back to the small town? Not many. I mean, and I know that because I used to have a gym in a college town, and I had so many of the kids who worked for me and the people who were members of my gym came from little map dots all over the Midwest, and I got to know a lot of them, and they were getting their educations, and you know how many were going back to their town or wanted to go back to a small town when they were done? None of them. None of them. Small towns are places where, you know, the population is older. The population is a little more separated or divorced from the culture at large. And a lot of people will say that's good, and I agree with that. But there's a danger in there. And, you know, it shouldn't be divorced from the culture because the culture ought to be better than it is. But I understand if the culture is that bad, you want to be divorced from the culture. But being that divorced from the culture means that you don't understand what's going on, and you're not going to recognize the dangers and the threats that are coming your way while they're coming. And very often you're not going to see them until they're too late. You know, I see a resurgence in at least around here, and I can't speak for other places. I see a great resurgence. You know, I'm drinking out of an American Reversion mug here. See there? I see a great resurgence in conservatism and values, basic traditional values and principles in these areas around me, not in the cities. And I don't see the resurgence happening in the smaller towns just south of us here, with which I am most familiar. There's still a lot of good people there, so there doesn't necessarily have to be a resurgence here in my area. It really had gone, you know, it was going the wrong way. But I'll tell you, you know who's been bringing it back? The young people. My son in high school tells me I wouldn't believe how conservative so many kids are in him, and he shows me why. And you know, it's all from TikTok. There is so much truth being spread out there on TikTok, and that's where these kids get their information. And so much truth about the left, about you know, the attacks on, you know, faith, family, and community. Kids aren't stupid. Kids are always, you know, they're soaking up information, and this has been a great weapon to use against the influx of improper what's the word? Influences. Okay, here. So anyway, they are coming for your kids in the small towns. I want you to know that. I want you to understand that your small town is not a safe place. I want you to know that your small town is being targeted because it's a small town, and because of the assumption that the people there are not, first off, aware of what's going on, and secondly, will not stand up in enough numbers and in time to stop it. Small towns are the soft targets of 21st century America. They are the, you know, no gun zones. They really are. And you know, it's easy to think, well, you know, and I'm not really talking about guns, you know, but you understand what I'm saying. They are the soft targets. And it doesn't take much for an organized group to penetrate into there. And you know yourself, even in small towns, there are people who don't think. Everybody doesn't think alike. You know, everybody ain't Aunt B, right? I know. But anyway, that's what I wanted to pass on here. Small towns are being targeted, and your kids are being targeted. in my opinion, I mean, take this, I'm just giving unsolicited advice, take it for what you think it's worth. In my opinion, the way to fight this, you have to stop losing your young people to, crazy ideology, but also to the greater world. If small towns don't become more vibrant, small towns are going to continue losing their next generations. And, it's happened since the early 1900s, right? How are you going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Paris kind of thing? Kids see the big city, they're going to gravitate. That's where the jobs are. That's where the money is. That's where more people are. That's where the nightlife is. And I know a lot of people make fun of the flashy things, but that's what appeals to young people if they don't have something else to look to. And unless small towns become more vibrant, more energetic, more forceful in their promotion of real American values, they're going to continue to die. Through Kansas, we're already seeing so many, I forget what it was. I think I read that over 50 rural hospitals are in danger of closing because they don't have the population anymore. I don't know, I haven't sat down and thought out a plan, of what it would take to make these smaller towns. I mean, you can get your college paid for if you will agree. You can get medical school paid for, I think, in some cases, if you will agree to practice in a small town for a few years. My gracious. But it's because small towns just don't have the things that will attract people. And there are some good kids, raised in small towns, farms and ranches, who have been raised up in the family way and want to stay and want to continue. And I know some of them who are on ranches and they want to continue the ranch life, and then they also got 3 or 4 brothers and sisters who don't. So, and they've gone off to the big cities to, find their fortunes. This is a major problem. I don't know the solution. I'll be interested to hear what you all have to say about it. But small towns have to start understanding that they're under attack. They are threatened. They're in the crosshairs, and they have to start doing things to protect themselves and protect their kids. Okay. Remember, like all of my videos, this one is brought to you by the Stonemont series, my books, my complete collection, 6 novels, about the complete plan on how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a total collapse of everything. And this is all about, it's not just about preparedness and not just about survival, it's about family values, it's about faith, it's about community, it's about all the things that we talk about. And if you haven't read them, you'll love them. There's 2 ways to get them. People, I say that because hundreds of thousands of people around the world have been reading these since 2015. They love them. I have people who have said they were starting reading through the 6th time of this series until I started coming out with the audibles over on the Stonemont. Now they like to listen to me read it, which is great. But they are available on Amazon. The link is down below in the information section, and I'll post a link also. I'll pin a link down there. But they're also available directly from me, and I love to do that. You can get them through our website, stonemont.us. Stonemont.us. The link I'll also put down there. You can order the books. You can order the t-shirts. If you order, and I'm still waiting to give final okay on the mugs. Not quite happy with the final thing yet. But if you order the books through there, there's a place there you get to tell me what you'd like me to sign in it for you. Would you like Steve to sign something? Yeah, just sign whatever you want, or sign it to Bob, or sign it to Uncle Bob, or sign it to my friends, or say congratulations, whatever you'd like. And if you send them for gifts, because I have a lot of people buying the whole set and sending them as gifts, let me know about that and who you want me to sign them to. And I love to do that. If you're not with us on on the Patreon channel, love to have you over there. You'll enjoy it. You'll get a lot more out of it than the YouTube channel. Not only is the community better, but I put up a lot more stuff over there. And if you want to be able to access the audibles of me reading the series, make sure you go to the Stonemont level, which is the second level. It's not much. It's $5 a month. And you get me reading the books. So that's it. Realize America's under attack. Your family's under attack. Your small town's under attack. Your suburb is under attack. It's not just the cities. And it's insidious. These people know what they're doing, and they're going to keep doing it, and they're going to win unless you fight back. And the way to fight back is like those mothers that stand up. Stand up against it when it starts, and stand up loud and keep fighting against it. It's the only way we're going to keep this country from truly going down in the ditch without any hope of bringing it back out. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.